premier choix de Pittsburgh, number 66.
Mario Lemieux.
Ever since I was a little kid, like they teach you to win at all costs, to win, everything is to win.
And people look at you as the guy who did something underhanded to get a chance to draft Mario Lemieux.
What is tanking?
You have to do what's best for your franchise.
This thing ever blows up in our face, we're going to never live this down.
The foundation of our games is winning and losing. And trying your best is the bricks and mortar of our games. 30 years ago, the Pittsburgh Penguins came to the counterintuitive conclusion that you could actually win for losing, at least when a once-in-a-generation player was the reward. The two main characters in the story are Eddie Johnston, former Bruins goalie, who was the Pittsburgh Penguins general manager, and Luann Gotti, the first captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, who was the Pittsburgh coach. They were good hockey people and honorable hockey men, inclined personally and professionally to do the right thing. In 1984, the question was, what exactly is the right thing? 1983-84, Laval, Quebec. Mario Lemieux was indisputably Mario the Magnificent, rampaging to 282 points in 70 games. The greatest show on skates. He was a lock to be chosen first in the NHL draft.
I told our owner, Mr. DeBarro, I said, this is a player that comes around once in a lifetime.
I was intrigued enough just to see who he might be, but I had no idea what I was going to see.
Everybody saw this young kid coming out of Quebec that was so highly rated and breaking scoring records, setter, out of this world.
The reports on him were so unbelievable. You really couldn't grasp that somebody could be this good. Those are the kinds of things you were hearing, but you knew who Mario was. And that's when you said, my God. I think those were the two words that came to mind when you saw Mario Lemieux play. My God.
While Lemieux was skating circles around the Q, Pittsburgh was unraveling. The team, yes, but also the city. The steel mills were closing. The economy was wretched. The Penguins were ripe for relocation.
This is the time when the Penguins are averaging 6,000 people.
It wasn't fun getting booed off the ice.
We were an unbelievably bad team. It was a very, very difficult year, torturous in many ways in terms of watching how it affected the people who were trying to win, and nothing but bad results were coming.
I can honestly say right now we were a minor league team. We were a minor league team playing in the NHL.
You know, I can remember times when we'd go to the game and we'd see people in the stands like with bags over their heads. So it was not an easy way to break into the league.
The commitment to winning wasn't always there in the dressing room, I can assure you that.
Usually when a team struggles like that, you fire the coach. There was nothing like that gonna happen. We were the comical team of the NHL. We were a joke, us and New Jersey.
In 1984, if you finished last, you picked first. So the stage was set for a potential race to the bottom between the Devils and Penguins, pitting the incompetent against the inexcusable. The hapless franchises had combined for 35 wins the previous season, and rumors abounded that Pittsburgh was ready to show the league just how low it could go.
Whatever they were doing, if they were, that's their business. But I wasn't going to get involved in that.
It was the sweepstakes in the Pittsburgh press. And they'd have a picture of us, and they'd have a picture of New Jersey, and here's the point spread, here's the point spread, here's what we got to do.
Both teams were out of the playoffs by Christmas time. I mean, we brought everybody in and give everybody a chance. It's not like we finished 20 points below them. I think it was like 3 or 4 points or something.
as professional players, I mean, it was a little bit frustrating because, you know, we're trying our heart out, but we just don't have a good team. It's not like you got to win 5 games and you make the playoffs. It's like you got to lose 5 games and we got Mario Lemieux.
I couldn't go in the dressing room and say, look, I know that you've given me everything you got. You've been blocking shots. You've been doing everything to win. But these last 5 games, I come in and say, well, don't try so hard. I couldn't do that.
The Devils played it straight, playing a little old-time, if not especially good, hockey. The Penguins, well, they were not merely defensively challenged, but ethically challenged.
Eddie said that, you know, if we do this, there's a very good chance that you and I will lose our jobs. There was about 30-plus games left, and Eddie said, you know, we have to make a conscious decision as to what we can do, and he said the only thing we can do is we got to get Mario Lemieux.
They're doing one thing. They're getting through the year to try to have a shot at Mario Lemieux.
Without a prayer of making the playoffs, the Penguins engaged in a string of moves that, well, for the moment anyway, we'll call them curious.
There was always suspicion that Eddie Johnston was going to do some things with his management of the team to get that pick if he could.
The whole process started when we got rid of Randy Carlyle. He was the face of our organization. He was our team captain. 2 years before, he won the Norris. When you put him up for trade, you expect to get a ton back. You know what? We didn't get a lot back.
You got a first-round pick and a player to be named later, so you traded your best player and get nothing back immediately in return.
Mo Mantha was the player that we eventually got. We didn't want him until the season was over because we didn't want to strengthen our team.
So trading your best player was all part of the process.
Yeah, yes it was, right.
It was actually pretty, a depressing time at the time, and you're trying to question, what's the team, trying to do here.
Not too often do you see Norris Trophy winning defenseman trade.
No. Well, we just felt we had a chance to pick up a couple of players, and we weren't going no place at that particular time, and we needed players.
Incredibly, the Penguins had 48 players on their roster in 83-84, enough to field almost 3 teams, albeit not any good ones.
There were 48 different Pittsburgh Penguins in 83-84.
Were there that many?
Did you need names?
Yeah, I think it was probably the first team in NHL history where we had to walk around with our name tags.
Hello, my name is Roberto.
That's right, yeah. Where you're from, where you played, basically, because it was like a revolving door. The players were coming in and out, and they tried everything, everyone.
We had 2 defensemen, I'm not going to mention their names, were drafted, and either one of them could only turn one way.
I know we went in there one night to play, and I went out to the warm-up, and it looked like an American Hockey League team to me.
Roberto Romano had the look of the Penguins' goalie of the future, but he wasn't going to be the goalie of the present. Late in the season, Romano committed the faux pas of putting together a series of strong starts.
You had a goalie, Roberto Romano, put together a nice little run.
Yeah.
What happened to Roberto Romano?
Well, nothing really happened to him, but we ended up, we sent him down to Baltimore with the idea of helping him, and then again weaken our team.
I remember Roberto Romano, young goalie, playing very well for us, and he's winning, and then all of a sudden he gets sent to the minors, and there's questions in the dressing room like, why would you send a guy that's winning?
I was okay with it at the time because I hated to lose, and when I was with the Penguins, we weren't winning too often.
We brought up a player, Tremblay, a goaltender.
All I remembered is and hearing that this guy was delivering milk somewhere. I swear, that's all I remember, that this guy was a milkman somewhere and he was coming in to get us some wins at the end of the season.
Was that Vincent Tremblay?
I believe it was.
He used to challenge a shooter with his glove closed. instead of open.
Do you remember how many games John Blake played?
No, did he play a handful?
Played 4. Mm-hmm. His goals against average?
5.6.
Close, 6.0.
I think his impact became greater in retrospect when you realized what had happened. He was just another guy who came in. There were a lot of guys on the roster that year and a lot of guys that you really hadn't heard of.
He played, I think, 4 games with us, and it was just, you know, he was as much to help us get Mario Lemieux as anybody did.
He had a goalie win 2 games in a row, Roberto Romano, and he ended up in Baltimore. Why'd you send him down?
To be 40 points out of a playoff and think you're going to win one more game and don't finish last, I mean, didn't make any sense to me.
I was thinking more about how embarrassing it would have been for me and Eddie Johnson if we didn't end up in last place. Because that's the thing that always was on my mind, saying, boy, this thing ever blows up in our face, we're gonna never live this down.
The Penguins won just 3 of their final 21 games, clinching the first overall draft pick in the second last game of the season.
Did the Penguins tank in 83, 84?
I don't think the players did. I think they were just...
Do you think management did?
I don't know.
And people look at you as the guy who did something underhanded to get a chance to draft Mario Lemieux.
I didn't do any underhanded. We just never had the talent.
Eddie Johnson and I did what we thought we had to do to save the franchise. But the thing that bothered Eddie and I a great deal about what we did is the fact that what if it didn't come about? You know, we're going into games that we're not looking to win. That's the worst part. That's the thing that scared me the most.
You were coaching to win, or were you coaching not to win?
We were coaching not to win. You know, I will never deny that. I put my 4th-line players out against the other team's first-line players. And whenever we got a penalty, I'll put on players on the ice that normally you wouldn't put them out there to kill a penalty.
I know what they were doing, sure. The hockey people would come to me after it was all over, and they would say, like, look at me with a puzzled look on their face. I mean, big-time hockey men. And they'd say, Tommy, did no one talk to you about this? I said, no. They were implying that you don't have to win every game till the end of the year, and you'll get Lemieux. That's what they're implying.
We went into a game to play the Rangers, and at the end of the first period, we were leading 3-0. And Eddie came into the coach's office and said to me, what the hell's going on? He said, we're going to blow this whole deal.
Did you ever tell Lou Angotti, big game tonight, make sure we don't win?
Oh, no, I wouldn't tell anybody that. I would be cheating the fans, and you don't do that. You know, 'cause they'll come back and haunt you, you do stuff like that.
You could see it, like Eddie was on pins and needles. You know, we're up 3-1. He's like thinking, God, guys, we got to lose this game.
This is a tale rife with winks and nods. Johnston has never actually admitted that the Penguins tanked. He says things like, well, we were trying to do what was best for the franchise.
We're optimistic building that way, and that's the only way we're going to prove our argument.
We revisited Johnston for further clarification.
Lou says that you and he had an understanding about where the season wanted to go. You say there was no understanding. How do we reconcile that?
Well, when I say there's no understanding, I mean, when we got completely out of a playoff and we had no place to go, you know, I think what you got to do, you got to look out for your franchise then. I think that's more important. As a general manager, I think it happens in all sports. You know, when you're completely out of it, you know, you got to be thinking that, hey, what's out there for the draft and what's around, and you know, and we needed to turn the franchise around here, otherwise we're not going to get anybody in the building, and we needed a superstar, and Mario was that guy.
There's no one's going to ever admit it. I mean, you don't have to admit it, you just have to look at the roster.
I think when you're a person who spent his entire life as a competitor wanting to win, it's difficult viscerally to admit to anyone that you tried to lose. And yet, By losing, he won.
The players were never involved. You know, we never called the players into the office, said, look, you know, it's important, we're trying to save the franchise. They knew what was going on, but they were never, ever involved.
You hate to lose.
Yeah.
Is it okay to lose if the greater good is acquiring a player like Mario Lemieux?
You know, it's saved their franchise, so was it the right move at the time? Thing is it fair to New Jersey what they did? I mean, you know, it's not for me to say. I mean, I don't think it's the honest thing to do.
I can't blame the franchise because they were dying.
Did EJ show foresight in what he did, because he didn't let this team get stuck in the middle with a high but not high enough draft choice?
If it was maneuvering, it was very intelligent. And he was very astute to establish early that this team was going nowhere, number one, and number two, that somebody could come in that was going to change the face of the franchise.
McVie was fired after the season. 6 years later, he was back behind the Devils' bench. But some fans were still less concerned with victories and defeats than one big lost superstar.
So I was walking around the concourse, and as I was walking around, you could hear the buzz of, like, Tommy McVie coming, saying to myself, you know, it's pretty good. Like, I'm feeling pretty good that they know who I am, and they think maybe I did a good job. As I'm walking by, I hear one guy say to all the others, there's the son of a bitch that cost us Lemieux.
The Pittsburgh Penguins finished with just 38 points last season.
We know we have a long way to go.
At the end of that year, we wanted some kind of prize, some kind of an award for all the grief that we had put up with the whole year. And we wanted that pick really bad.
Pittsburgh, number 66, Mario Lemieux.
By finishing last, the Penguins secured the first pick.
There was much at stake. It was basically the life of a franchise. This wasn't about necessarily just getting a pick. This was about saving a team.
But after months of scheming to grab Lemieux, the drama was hardly over. You initiated contract negotiations with the Penguins before the draft. How did they go?
The negotiations went really, really sour. And I was told that you're going to take what we're offering you. And when I heard that, I thought it'd be hypocritical for Mario to go down to the draft table, shake hands, and put on the sweater. I'm advising you not to do it.
Were you nervous the morning of the draft?
Yeah, you're always nervous, you know. Again, because you weren't sure what, like, Badali was going to bring him down. You weren't, you know, and we didn't want to get embarrassed. Premier choix de Pittsburgh, numéro 66, Mario Lemieux.
As soon as Eddie announced his name, Mario stood up from where he was sitting, was expected to walk down to the Pittsburgh table, you know, shake hands with Eddie Johnson, put on the Pittsburgh sweater. No, not Mario. He sat down because he was upset with Pittsburgh, all right? And now here comes Albert the scout.
Albert Mandanici was the Penguins' amateur scout in Quebec. He was desperate to get the future franchise player to the table.
He's in front of Mario. He's on his knees. He's begging.
He said, "You have to come to the table, Mario."
I swear, the guy was crying. Mario, Mario, you have to come down. Mario stared straight ahead. No way. And his agent, Gus Badali, stared straight ahead. No way he was going to let Mario walk down to the table. So he sat there in his seat and made an ass of himself.
The holdout ended when Lemieux signed 3 days after the draft.
Mario told me fairly early in his career was that was his biggest regret.
Sometimes you regret what you do when you're younger, when you're not mature, but that's the decision that I took at the time, and I'm certainly going to live with it.
9 years later, after the Ottawa Senators did something similar to land Alexandre Daigle, the NHL instituted a draft lottery in 1995. But in the bad old days of '84, the league simply turned a blind eye to the race for Lemieux.
Did EJ game the system?
He took advantage of a system that was in place. The National Hockey League had a system that made it possible for you to perhaps position yourself to get the first pick in the draft if you were a terrible team.
We know what happened to Lemieux. 2 Stanley Cups, 3 Hart trophies, and 6 Art Ross trophies.
It transformed the franchise and transformed the city, really.
But what about the men who brought Lemieux to the Penguins? If Eddie Johnston had not taken the low road in '83-'84, there would be no hockey in Pittsburgh. Mario proved to be his messiah. Johnston was out by 1988. He didn't get to see Lemieux and the Penguins hoist the Stanley Cup in '91, but make no mistake, this was his cup.
I would like to think that EJ was one of the most brilliant GMs that we've ever had around here.
The timing of having Eddie Johnston become general manager of the Penguins, a man who embraced the concept of building through the draft, he brought that philosophy to the Penguins for the very first time in a year when Mario Lemieux was available.
If you look back at it now, Eddie Johnston looks like a genius.
Lou Angotti doesn't have the same pride of place in Penguins history, although he too did his best, or his worst.
In essence, you became the fall guy for what went on in that season.
Well, you know...
you never coached again.
No, I never did, no. There was an article that came out of New York in a New York paper, I think out of the Islander, said that I was a disgrace to the game and that I should never be allowed to coach again. And I never did. I never did.